Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most stunning and, let's be honest, famously challenging poems in all of Chinese literature, the Jeweled Zither by Li Shangyin. For more than 1,000 years, it has just mesmerized readers with its incredible imagery and its deep, maybe even unsolvable, mystery. You know, this is one of those poems that asks way more questions than it answers, and that is exactly where its magic is.
And you know what? We're actually going to start at the very end. This final line, this is the heart of the whole puzzle. It's describing that weird, uncanny feeling of looking back at a really powerful memory, only to realize you didn't even get its true meaning while it was happening. It's a feeling that just sticks with you, this beautiful confusion that we're going to try and unpack together. Okay, so to get the poem, you've really got to get the poet first. Li Shangyin was living right as the Great Tang dynasty was starting to decline, and he was an absolute poetic genius. I mean, known for his dense, beautiful, and often very ambiguous work. But his life, well, it was filled with frustration. He got caught in the crossfire of this nasty political feud, and his career just never, ever reached the heights his talent deserved. And that sense of unfulfilled promise, it really haunts his writing.
Right, and that ambiguity has kicked off a debate that's lasted 1,000 years. Seriously. For centuries, scholars have been arguing, is this a poem mourning his wife who died young? Is it a lament for a lost lover? Or maybe it's a reflection on his own failed career. Some even think it's an ode to art itself. The thing is, nobody knows for sure. And as we're about to see, that's what gives this poem its incredible power.
So, let's start the journey into the poem, beginning with the very first couplet. The entire reflection, this whole spiral into the past, it's sparked by a single, beautiful object, a jeweled zither, an instrument known in Chinese as the Se. Let's hear the first line, the original Chinese. Jin Se 无端50弦. The English interpretation is, the jeweled zither, for no reason, has 50 strings. And the second line, 一弦一柱思华年, which means each string, each bridge, recalls a splendid year. So right away, the poem opens with this sense of wonder, but also almost a complaint. He's looking at this instrument, and every single part of it is just sending him tumbling back into his own past.
And that brings us to a really crucial term here, hua nian, hua nian. This means so much more than just youth. It's the glorious, splendid, shining years of your life, the most vibrant, beautiful time. So from the get-go, the poet is telling us this is a journey into a past that was absolutely magnificent, but is now gone forever.
Okay, so after setting the stage of memory, the poem just plunges us into this dreamscape of ancient legends. And this is where it gets famously dense, because he starts weaving together two really powerful allusions from Chinese philosophy and myth.
Here we go. First, in Chinese, 庄生晓梦迷蝴蝶. In English, Master Zhuang in a dawn dream was lost in a butterfly. And the next line, Wang Di Chunxing Tuodu Zhen, which becomes, Emperor Wang's spring heart was entrusted to the cuckoo. Wow, two very different and incredibly evocative images right there.
So that first allusion, it comes from the ancient philosopher Zhuangzi. He famously had this dream that he was a happy butterfly, just flitting about. And when he woke up, he couldn't be sure if he was a man who had dreamt he was a butterfly, or a butterfly now dreaming he's a man. It just brilliantly captures that feeling of a joyful memory that now seems so far away it might as well have been a dream. It's beautiful, but it's hazy. It's not quite real anymore.
But that second allusion is much, much darker. It refers to the myth of Emperor Wang, who lost his kingdom and basically died of grief. His soul was reborn as a cuckoo, and its heartbreaking cry every spring was said to be the emperor's soul crying for his lost home, a cry so filled with sorrow it would bleed. I mean, this image is all about deep, inconsolable grief and a longing that can just never, ever be satisfied.
And that brings us right to the central question, doesn't it? Why put these two images right next to each other? You've got a beautiful, philosophical dream next to a cry of eternal bloody grief. Maybe what he's suggesting is that our splendid years are exactly that mix, a fusion of dreamlike joy that we can't quite grasp anymore, and a sharp, painful sorrow for what's been lost for good. And now the poem shifts again. If that second stanza was all about legendary feelings, this third one is about legendary sights. I'm not kidding, the next two lines are considered some of the most visually stunning in all of classical Chinese poetry. They create these images of immense but totally untouchable beauty.
Let's hear them. First, 层海月明珠有泪, which is, in the vast sea under the bright moon, pearls have tears. And then, 蓝千日暖玉生烟.
At Lantern, in the warm sun, jade gives off a mist. I mean, the imagery here is just breathtaking.
So let's break that down. The first image, pearls have tears, comes from a myth about mermaids whose tears would literally turn into pearls. It's a perfect metaphor, right? Something incredibly precious and beautiful that is born directly from sadness. Then the second one, jade gives off a mist, comes from this idea that the absolute finest jade, when it was warmed by the sun, would give off a visible vapor. This represents a beauty that's real, you can see it, but it's ethereal, you can't hold it. Both things are precious, and both are fundamentally out of reach.
And all this brings us to the poem's conclusion. After exploring memory, dreams, sorrow, and this unattainable beauty, the poet tries to give a name to the really complex emotion that ties all of it together. He's trying to define this feeling, the one that sits at the very heart of looking back.
So the final lines, in Chinese, 此情可待成追忆, which is, this feeling might have waited to become a memory. And then the knockout punch, 只是当时已惘然. But even then, in that moment, I was lost in a daze. It's just an absolutely stunning emotional twist at the end.
That final word is the key to everything. Wangran, Wangran. It just doesn't have a perfect English equivalent. It's a mix of bewilderment, a sense of loss, and confusion. It's that strange feeling you get when you realize that the most profound moments of our lives are often so overwhelming that we don't even fully grasp them as they're happening. We're already in a daze, already lost in the moment, long before it even becomes a memory.
And ultimately, this is the poem's genius. It never tells us if it's about a wife, or a lover, or his career. It doesn't have to. By leaving the subject totally open, Li Shangyin creates this perfect vessel for a feeling we have all experienced. That beautiful, aching confusion of looking back on our own splendid years. It lets the poem hold every single reader's personal sense of Wangran.
So let's read it one last time, all together in English, and just let the full weight of these images wash over you. The jeweled zither, for no reason, has 50 strings. Each string, each bridge, recalls a splendid year. Master Zhuang, in a dawn dream, was lost in a butterfly. Emperor Wang's spring heart was entrusted to the cuckoo. In the vast sea, under the bright moon, pearls have tears. At Lantern, in the warm sun, jade gives off a mist. This feeling might have waited to become a memory, but even then, in that moment, I was lost in a daze.
So, we'll leave you with this thought. A poem written over 1,000 years ago, in a land far away, can perfectly capture a feeling that is completely universal and timeless. It doesn't give us answers, it asks us to feel. So the real question it leaves us with isn't what it meant to the poet, but what beautiful hazy memory does this poem make you feel?